Welcome to this episode of Kennedy Saves the World. I'm so excited because a true cultural icon is in our midst. I'm not even going to waste time with fancy introductions, although you love her writing, her work, her characters have truly changed society, the way women see friendships, sex, and themselves. It is Sex and the City author, best-selling author, worldwide phenomenon. Candace Bushnell is here. Welcome to Kennedy Saves the World.
Thank you, Kennedy. It's great to be here.
And it's happy hour. And of course, because it's Candace Bushnell and you made the Cosmopolitan famous, I was like, maybe I'll make a Cosmopolitan. But what I did, I made you a white gin Cosmopolitan. So I made it with white cranberry juice and gin instead of vodka. So Candace Bushnell, to you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
And this looks delicious.
It's strong.
And it is. It is a little strong. It's a little bit strong for before
an interview where
dinner, maybe before an interview. But
so
look,
it
at
is,
least I didn't take a gummy.
No. Do you partake in gummies?
You know, not really. No, I used to, but now I do these gummies. But they have like just a tiny, tiny bit of THC in them, like 0.5%.
I'm allergic to THC.
Well, that's good.
But I see the gummies on Instagram, the Feals, Feals, and they're like, you'll never drink again because we have just enough THC to make you lose your mind, but you'll never be hungover. But I'm allergic to THC, so I can't even try them.
Do you throw up?
Yes.
Oh, yes. A friend of mine had that. Like every time.
Doesn't matter what form.
Yeah, exactly. She'll be on the bathroom floor for like 3 or 4 hours.
So
it's a very particular thing. I can't believe I brought up gummies and THC like in the first 2 minutes.
No, I'm glad you did because it means that you're honest, you're real, and you're gonna lay it all out there as you're going to in your one-woman show.
Yes.
And that's May 16th, Sony Hall,
yes,
New York City, a culmination of your life's work because a lot of people just know you from Sex and the City.
Yes.
But when you think of yourself, that kernel of truth that is you, what aspect of your life do you constantly go back to where you're like, yes, that is the most real thing that maybe people don't know about?
God, what's the most real thing? Probably, one of the most real things is that I had such an overwhelming desire and passion for being a writer.
Yes.
And writing fiction. I mean, when I was young, I really thought like, I'm going to win the Pulitzer Prize.
Yeah.
And I was really like trying for it and going for it. And this is all stuff that I put in my one-woman show. Then you get older and you realize, it's never going to happen. And also, I don't even know if I can get any more work. I'm old,
But you adjust your expectations. You recalibrate.
Yes. And now I really just want to be on TV.
And that's great.
But
thank God the podcast is video.
I had a TV show.
Yeah.
A couple of them. And I hated doing it.
Why?
I hated doing the hair and makeup, first of all, for 2 hours.
Yes.
Because somehow back then it took a really long time.
Well, you had to be perfect.
Yes.
And we didn't have the tools back then that we have now.
Yes. Now
you can achieve perfection double teaming in 35 minutes.
Yes. And I also feel like makeup is much better and somehow it's more advanced.
Yes.
I don't know. It lasts longer.
It goes on easier.
It goes on easier. Yes, exactly. But that made me crazy. And then also I started to I felt like I was turning into a diva because I had a co-host. I hated him.
Yeah.
I liked him at first, but then I was like, I hate him. And then I would be counting the lines of the script, like, and if he had one more line than I did, I was like, can we have a conversation about this, please, with the producer? It was like,
it's a horrible position to be in. Yeah.
I am not this person.
So that was not the kernel. The kernel of truth, who you are, that was not the co-host, because when you're matched with the wrong person, it brings out the worst in you because there is an injustice there. You have to advocate for yourself. And if you're a woman, it's much easier for people to go, she's difficult. We now no longer have to listen to a word she says because we will label her difficult and we will move on and not listen to any of her concerns.
Yes. Well, that that didn't happen. But
What happened?
it was on VH1 and Bravo, and then one of them just like dissolved somehow. I mean, that also happens a lot too.
Yeah. Well,
You know,
especially
it's like
in this landscape.
yes, exactly. But
It's like Pac-Man. It's like giant companies gobble up different stations and then they sell them off and
I know. And
things
then
expand and contrast or, contract. And now here you are.
yes,
telling your
here I
story.
am telling my story actually on stage.
Yeah.
So it's really the origin story of Sex in the City, how I wrote Sex in the City, how hard I worked to get there, why I
And
invented
that
Carrie
was
Bradshaw.
the name of your column in the New York Observer.
Sex in the City, yes. And I tell the story of how I got the column Sex in the City because people always ask me all these questions like, was there a real Mr. Big? I answer that question and tell the story of the real Mr. Big.
Oh, that's exciting.
But it's not as much of a happy end. Well, it's not as much of a happy ending as, Carrie, TV Carrie.
Yes.
And TV Mr. Big.
Yeah, and movie Carrie.
And movie Carrie, but she, he didn't die of a heart attack. He's still kicking.
Yeah.
In Vermont, riding horses.
How did you feel about Mr. Big's demise when you watched And Just Like That? Did you know about it before you saw it?
No,
Okay.
I didn't know about it beforehand, but I had read so much about it that I was prepared. I don't think I watched, maybe I was away, but I feel like I was away sort of the day that it landed or something on HBO. So I ended up watching it like 3 days later. So I already knew. I thought they handled the scene really well.
Mm-hmm.
And I totally understand why they did it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard for me to watch the show and feel like I feel like I know too much.
Yes.
It's like I know too much. I know why they did it because Carrie has to have a new trajectory.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it can't be
come
like,
on, like
John,
a happy couple.
I'm going to get my mammogram.
No, that
Oh,
doesn't work.
Great. I'll meet you at Coco Pazzo
Yeah.
at 8 for dinner. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know if that restaurant is still open. I know.
Well, now
I
it's
had been there in the
Caravaggio.
90s. Okay. Oh, that's Caravaggio. Okay.
It's Caravaggio.
Yeah.
And actually, I live upstairs from Caravaggio.
That's
I
awesome.
went there last night. It's like, okay. I remember when it was Coco Pazzo.
How relieved were you when, instead of just living your sex life with your friends, that you could actually write about it and get paid for it? Was that, did it feel like more work, like your personal life became more work, or was there a relief there?
No, because first of all through the 80s, I was writing for women's magazines.
Mm-hmm.
And I was writing stories that were precursors to Sex in the City.
Okay.
So I was writing about relationships, sex. I mean, I started writing for Cosmo
Mm-hmm.
in, I don't, like 1980?
That's
1982?
Awesome. Yeah.
I mean, I had
because
my
you
first
showed up
piece.
in New York when you were 19.
Yes. Well, I had my first piece published when I was 19. I actually arrived in the city when I was 18.
Wow.
And
That's even
this
younger.
is something that I talk about in the show too. And it was very racy because I had this boyfriend, Gordon Parks, who was quite a bit older. He was a
Really?
super famous photographer.
Wow. Yeah, Gordon.
And-
Were you his muse?
No, I don't think so. No. I mean, he probably had a lot of muses. I think Gloria Vanderbilt was his muse. He was best friends with Gloria Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
So,
Is he Anderson Cooper's dad?
no.
Okay.
No, I think he probably died 20 years ago.
Oh, wow. Okay. R.I.P.
So he was quite a bit older.
Yeah.
But whatever. It was interesting.
Yeah. So
But
you
of
moved
course-
to New York.
I moved to New York, but I
You're hearing about
realized,
sex. You're seeing people live these crazy lives.
yes, and I started writing about New York City and all these crazy people that I knew about.
Yeah.
And,
And what a transition that was from, I mean, the late 80s in New York were seedy and scary.
or the late 70s.
Well, I had only come to New York in the late 80s in high school.
Oh, okay,
and I
because the
remember
late
well, 'cause
80s
it was like scary. It was
well,
intense.
in the late 70s, it was really, really scary.
Because you grew up in Connecticut, so you
I grew up
probably
in
as
Connecticut,
a kid
and
would come and
I went to Rice University,
Yep.
and I went in Houston, Texas,
Yep.
and that was actually kind of scary too, because like if you were gay, the friends that I had who were gay, they were like, they will kill you here,
oh god.
and they would kill.
And I bet
they
you
will.
you were a bug light for the gays. Like they always loved
Well,
you.
I used to go to this place called the Old Plantation,
Yeah.
which was the, biggest gay club, and I was like a little Madonna.
That's right.
Dancing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the gays loved you in Houston. You come
and
to
I
New
came
York.
to New York, and I went to Studio 54.
Damn.
And the first story that was published, and this is in my one-woman show, was called How to Act in a Disco. And it was full of New York cynicism. One of the lines was, if somebody dies, ignore them. It sounds so horrible now, but it was
really
so
funny coming from a 19-year-old, though.
quintessentially New York City.
Yeah.
It was so, people were so cynical, but nice.
Yeah.
Like people would help you out. Everybody was struggling.
Mm-hmm.
It was, it was tough. And then I worked for women's magazines,
Mm-hmm.
and I was writing really stories that were precursors to Sex and the City.
Okay.
And I was writing about Samantha, but she had a different name. She was Jennifer.
Okay.
And then maybe she was, name anything, Susan.
Mm-hmm.
And then she became Samantha. And when I started writing Sex and the City, but I really, really wanted to have my own column.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to get my own column for years. And I actually had my own column at Mademoiselle, but then the editor got fired.
Oh.
So, that happens.
Yeah. So you found your way to the New York Observer, and
Yes.
you really started to flesh out these characters. Were the columns that you wrote fiction or nonfiction?
Pretty much nonfiction, but some were fiction.
So housed in fictional characters to protect the innocent.
Yes.
Or the very guilty.
Yes. So I actually would interview people, and sometimes I could use their name, like Peter Beard. Mm-hmm. Peter Beard agreed to do a story about threesomes.
Artist. Yeah.
Yes, he was an artist.
That's in Sex and the City, and you're talking to 7 guys about threesomes.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And one of them was Peter Beard. And he was like, sure, you can use my name, no problem. And then there were other people, like this woman who ended up on the TV show, Amelita Amalfi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She
was the wild European.
Yes. And she was a really good friend of mine. And, so I wrote about her, and she didn't want me to use her name. But
I'm reading about these characters, and it's reminding me of Jackie Collins. But obviously, Jackie Collins sort of existed in this world and took bits and pieces and exaggerated stories and created characters. Did you ever meet Jackie Collins and talk to her about your work? Because I imagine she would have been a big fan of what you did.
No, but did I ever meet her? It was one of those things where people were always saying, like, you two should meet. But I don't think I ever met her. Maybe we were at the same party.
Okay.
And I might have met her for a second,
Mm-hmm.
but I never had a conversation with her, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I've met her sister, Joan.
Yeah.
In New York.
Yes.
On the Upper East Side.
But Amelita was a real person.
She was real person.
These lives, and it's like you write about, are they prostitutes? Like, are they bon vivants? Like, how do you wrap your head around these people who have these, like, they're not even perfect lives, but they're these, like, perfect specimens who have all this stuff. They're given gifts by rich men. They go to Aspen with famous men. Was this stuff really happening?
Oh yes. But if you look at the internet today, you look at all those dating sites, all these women are after sugar daddies.
Yes.
So it's really not new. The only thing that's different is how one meets these people. But yeah, I mean, that was In the 1980s, one of the issues was women could have, you had a job
Hmm.
and you had a career, but you couldn't really make enough money to totally support yourself
Yeah.
because, women didn't get paid very much. And, so there was sort of this illusion of, I'm independent, but I really still kind of need a man. And that actually did change in the 90s. And that was really the beginning of Sex in the City, was that I saw all of these women who in the 80s, they'd had careers, but they really weren't making that much money. But then somehow in the 90s, when they got into their 30s, they were making real money
Yeah, they
in
were
the sense
establishing
that,
themselves in careers
yes,
for over a decade, moving
yes,
up the corporate ladder at a
yes.
time
And
when, Anita Hill forced everyone to have these sexual harassment seminars at work. And then the
yes,
conversation really shifted and it was like, oh, maybe we should have some female executives. Ah.
exactly.
And so people
And
panicked.
and so that was really the beginning of Sex in the City because I realized when women have their own independence and have their own money, their sex lives are very different than what society was telling us about their sex lives. That being, women should not have sex with more than 3 people. It was like, geez, everyone I know has had sex with a lot more people than that. And also, if you have sex with someone, you'll fall madly in love with them and, you'll follow them around like a little puppy. That wasn't true either. So there was just a real, a sort of a sea change in women's attitudes towards sex. And that was Sex in the City. And also the friendship,
Yes.
which is so important in a place like New York City, where there are more women than men.
Don't go anywhere. More Kennedy Saves the World right after this.
But as you point out in your columns and in the book, you had a selectively small dating pool. And the available men who would have been your equals and your peers in terms of age and professional rank, they were dating 22-year-old models. So
Some of them were,
yeah, so
yes.
that got
Yes.
frustrating because, you're in your 30s, you're like, finally I've made it. Now I want a mate, and the dudes in your pool who were like socially acceptable, they just wanted younger women, which
Well,
is
you know
kind of an
what?
age-old problem.
It's still true. I mean, it is still 100% true. But the difference is that now a lot of those guys are, they live with their parents.
Yes.
So that's one of the differences. And also now what happens is there are a lot of men in their 60s who are with women in their 40s
Oh.
because, they have access to them through dating apps. And I mean, when I was 40, there was no way I would have gone out with somebody who was like 65. It was like, no,
Yeah.
that's weird. But, now all these guys in their 40s women are like, they're living at home. I mean, I don't know if I would even call it dating them. I've gone out with a couple of them and they're living at a friend's house.
Hmm.
One of them had a car. I was like, dude, you are so ahead of the game here. You are 42 and you have a car. Bless you.
Are you dating now?
No. And I'm supposed to be writing a piece for New York Magazine about dating over 60. But I'm like, no one's dating over 60. You get to be over your mid 60s and you're like, I'm done. I'm not even that interested. But women in their 50s are still very interested.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
I talk to women out there from pretty much every decade, from
yes.
my teenage daughters to my nieces in their 20s, to women I work with in their 30s and 40s, to my friends I grew up with in their 50s, and other women I've known who are mentors in their 60s. And they all kind of encounter the same thing.
Yes.
It's like these universal sort of archetypes.
Yes, exactly. And it really doesn't matter if you're 25 or 65. People have the same issues. It's very hard to make a connection.
Was it harder being single before you were married or after you were married?
Well, after I was married, when I got divorced, I think I got divorced when I was 52, and I didn't want to date anybody.
Okay.
I was so happy not to be dating anybody because I'd been, like with somebody my whole life, boyfriends or serious boyfriends. And it was fantastic not to have those obligations. But now I realize if I want, and then I did date somebody for about 3 years.
Oh, okay.
That was, it ended, I don't know, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever. And I'm like, if somebody comes along, great. But otherwise, I'm not out there like,
woo!
If I did that, I think people would just run in the other direction. It's like, I don't know. It's like things start sagging.
Is that
really.
Sex in the City lady? I see.
I don't
Like
know.
where
Actually, people do. Sometimes I feel like, they connect with me because they want to talk about Sex in the City.
that's what I was going to ask you because
Yes.
people want to shock you with their sex stories. Is that exhausting? Like when you got on a plane and you just want to put your headphones on and watch a movie, is someone like, you're not going to believe what happened to me. I had a threesome with a dentist and a hyena. And it was the best sex I've ever had in my life once the dentist fell asleep. Like, do people still try and like regale you with their sex tales?
Well, people mostly tell me about relationship stories.
Okay.
And the worst thing is, I am really happy to listen.
Oh, good for you.
I'm always interested in dating for some reason. And I ask people questions like, what's dating like in your city? And it's pretty much the same everywhere you go.
Okay.
It's not like there isn't really any place that's a lot better, which is interesting.
Because women always think it's going to be better in Alaska, where they've got better odds.
Well, Aspen.
Oh.
Except, Aspen's good if you are happy to be with a ski instructor. Then, you'll have your pick.
Yeah. That's
But there are really rich guys there too, and there are all these women after
Is
them.
that like the women's version of guys dating a model, women date ski instructors?
No, I would say it's women dating a billionaire because a model for a guy is kind of the same as it has so much status in their minds.
Yeah. And it had like in Sex and the City, it had so much status in the 90s. Like supermodels were massive. And we don't have supermodels now. Like we have models that we know, and some of them transition into, bigger roles and they become actors and influencers. But then like there was nothing like our 90s supermodels.
That's true.
I will die on that hill.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, with Linda and
they were
Christy
gorgeous.
and Cindy and Naomi, and they were bitchy, and I loved all of them. And
That was fun.
And you had the modelizers, like the guys in your book that would just try and figure out ways to date models.
And they had a whole system. It's like if you get one girl, you can get a whole bunch of them but you have to pay for them.
Yes.
They would pay
The modelizers they had to be independently wealthy. They had to be able to afford to take 8 girls out to a nice dinner at one time.
Yes, exactly. But at the end of that story, there was a guy he was a modelizer. The woman got pregnant.
Yeah.
She asked him for a whole bunch of money.
A $50,000 life insurance policy.
Yes.
$4,500 a month. Or a $500,000 life insurance policy. And like a $50,000 car. Like something.
Yes. And he ended it with, look at me. I'm an old man at 38. It was like, Well, dude,
Did you think
reap
that
what you sow.
Sarah Jessica Parker should have been Carrie?
100%.
Was she your first choice? And did you get a say?
Um, it was in my contract that I probably did have a say, but it wasn't something that I ever thought about exercising,
Okay.
really.
Were you happy with the casting of the 4 principal actors?
Absolutely. 100%. They're all fantastic. And I mean, Sarah Jessica Parker is just she's so New York. She gets the city. She lived here.
Yep.
She lives here. And that was something that was really important. And I mean, she's just absolutely fantastic. And the clothes and,
yeah.
it was just her
Pat
birthday.
Fields.
And then it's all over Instagram, all these different outfits. I was like, I get it. I understand why everybody wants to be Carrie
Yes.
if they are her,
No,
'cause
but if
she
you had
looks
it-
amazing.
If there was a group of 4 women in the early 2000s, then you'd be like, no one ever said, I'm the Miranda. No one ever wanted to be Miranda.
Really, they do now.
Yeah, they do now because she's a ball buster. And,
Yes,
it's like she could sue anyone because she was a lawyer.
Right. Well, in real life, she wasn't a lawyer.
No.
She was a tech
Yes.
person.
She worked for a computer company.
Yes.
That's so amazing. Are you still in touch with any of the cast members?
Well, I just did Kristen Davis's podcast.
How was it?
It was great. She was so much fun.
Yeah. She seems fun.
She is. She's lovely. She's just a lovely, lovely person.
Do you still
In
talk
fact,
to
they're
SJP?
all really nice. I do if I see her at a party,
Okay.
but I was never like,
Bros.
we were never like hanging out.
She should have hung out with you because she should have, I mean, that
Well-
would have been the right thing to do since you are Carrie. If she was really going to get inside the character's head, she should have been like, tell me everything about your life all the time.
Oh, well, I think she did a pretty great job.
She did. She did. She
She
did a
really
great
did.
job. Like,
Yeah.
I can't imagine anyone else playing that role,
I can't either.
especially with
can't
that
either.
hair. I did read a 2007 New York Times article where you and Darren Star were on the outs because when Lipstick Jungle was picked up, you were so excited and everyone was calling you, congratulating you, and he didn't. And you're like, I wrote part of this at your house in East Hampton. Why wouldn't you call and congratulate me? This is a big deal for me.
Well, yes, that was a bit of it was an unfortunate incident. And if people say like, what's one of the things that you regret? And I think that Darren and we both regret that we didn't do Lipstick Jungle together.
Yeah, because
like,
he
if I
tried
could
to
have
do
gone-
Kashmir Mafia.
Yes, because, it was, it was like a very strange sort of network thing where, they actually, NBC was going to do Lipstick Jungle, but then they shut it down. And then he was doing Kashmir Mafia, and then Lipstick Jungle came back. So it was just like, it was like a mess, unfortunately. And it's kind of a bummer because, like, I love that show.
Yeah.
That show is really, really good.
I love
And
Brooke Shields.
yes, and Brooke still to this day is like, she just regrets that the show didn't continue.
Yeah.
She loved that part. She was so good in it too.
Yeah, she's an amazing person. I went
She
to a
is.
40th birthday party, and I will never forget it as long as I live.
I wonder if I went to her 50th birthday.
That's very possible.
I went to one of her birthdays.
I only went because she was really good friends with a mutual friend of ours, and our mutual friend invited me. And then I took Brooke Shields' chocolate, and then she wrote me a note saying, thanks for the chocolate. And I was like, this is the best day of my life.
She is pretty amazing. I mean, she is literally one of the most famous people in the world.
Yes,
You
and has been
cannot
famous since she
go-
was a child.
Yes, and you can't go anywhere with her without people recognizing her.
Mm-hmm.
And like, if you want to know how to be a famous person, just look to Brooke Shields because she's so nice. And, when I would do like readings and stuff, I would just be like, remember Brooke. Remember what she does. She smiles and she's so nice to everybody
Yes.
and she's so friendly.
She looks everyone in the eye.
She looks everybody
Water
in the
off a duck's
eye.
back.
Yes.
She loves her children. She's a present mom.
Yes.
She's protective of her children, which I really respect about her. So Darren Star stole your idea.
Well,
Where are you guys
I don't-
emotionally today?
We're really good friends.
Oh, good. So you're back together.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we are definitely
So when you see
friends.
things like Emily in Paris, you don't go, I hope that show sucks and I hope it fails and everything about it is horrible.
No.
Okay, good.
No, I actually love Emily in Paris.
too.
People, people always say, if Carrie Bradshaw was on TV now, what would she be like? And the answer is Emily in Paris.
Yes, look at her clothes.
It's Emily in Paris.
But like
So-
the relatability and just, there's something about her that jumps off the screen. You feel like you know her. You're rooting for her. She's in
Yes.
all of these situations that, are.
And then it's always a happy
improbable.
ending,
Yeah.
which is, that's why I watch it. It's like, I
It's
know I'm going to feel good at the end.
Getting a massage in a seedy parlor in the East Village. There's always a happy ending.
Exactly.
So what can we expect from your one-woman show? May 16th, Stony Hall here in New
May
York City.
16th, Stony Hall. So, again, it's really the origin story of Sex and the City. There's the real story of the real Mr. Big. We also play a little game called Real or Not Real.
Excellent.
Because there's so many things that happened in my real life that happened on the TV show.
Yes.
But they're better or worse. So a lot of it is actually guys who Carrie dated, like the senator. So the question is, did I date a senator?
Did you?
I did.
Yes.
But when you see the picture, it always gets a lot of laughs. And
Why is it Al Franken?
no, it's Al D'Amato.
Oh, okay. That makes
It's-
sense. He was kind of a party guy.
He was really, really fun.
Yeah. He seems like he would have been fun, especially like in the 80s and 90s.
Yes,
He would have
in
been
the
a blast.
90s.
Yeah.
In the 90s. And somehow page six got a photograph of us going to Palm Beach,
Yeah.
of all places. Ridiculous. But anyway,
Do you still have those moments in your life where you're like, people wouldn't believe this? Like, this is so wild. Either you're on a private jet or you're in someone's pool and you still want to go back and tell that 18-year-old girl who's ready to leave Connecticut, like, hold on to your hat. You're not going to believe the shit that's going to happen to you.
no, because I'm actually the person who, when I was 18, I thought, oh, I'm going to be really, really rich and I'm going to win the Pulitzer Prize. And so I'm still like, where's my big pool? I actually had a big pool. I did in Connecticut. I can't lie. But then I decided to move to the Hamptons.
The pools are smaller, unless you're a billionaire.
Yes, they are. They're definitely smaller. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not really that pinch me person. I feel like I'm always just kind of like working, chugging along with my head down.
But are you
trying to come up
surveying-
with the next thing?
Are you surveying people like Jane Goodall? I mean, the way she was with primates, is that how you are with people and their mating rituals?
A little bit, yes.
I feel like
would
when I
say
read your stuff, it's
definitely.
very sociological,
Yes, it is. It is very
like
sociological.
anthropological. Like you are doing almost a
Yes.
scientific survey of, and getting people together and picking their brains because there's something about the collective. When people are together, they're safer and they want to one up each other. And the stories just keep getting better and better and better.
Yes, that is definitely true. And I used to go out every night when I was writing Sex in the City with my little notebook.
Yeah.
And then I would run into the bathroom and like make notes. So, yes, it is very anthropological. Definitely.
Well, I would give you an A on your dissertation. I think that you are fantastic. Your work, I was talking to Adam Carolla on his podcast, and I told him I was going to interview you, and he was like, I love Sex in the City. He said, I've seen every episode, every season. I've seen the movies. I've seen the reboot. So you have fans in the most unlikely places.
Yes. Well, I think it's partly because of Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
It's really is. It actually is bigger than it's ever been before in terms of people knowing about it, watching it. I mean, anywhere I go all around the world, I mean, it's really kind of fantastic because everybody's heard of Sex and the City.
Yeah.
And people want to talk about it. So it's a great way to be able to talk to strangers.
Yes, and it's so nice to know that you are a genuinely good listener, and the art of that has not left you. Candace, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
And here's the White Gin Cosmo.
Yes, I
raise
love it.
Eternally in your honor.
Wonderful.
This has been Kennedy Saves the World Happy Hour, along with Candace Bushnell. I'm Kennedy.
Listen ad-free with a Fox News Podcast Plus subscription on Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Prime members can listen to this show ad-free on the Amazon Music app.
Oh, go ahead and leave me a review while you're there. I'd love to hear what you have to say. You've been listening to Kennedy Saves the World on the Fox News Podcast Network.